Hello, Active Sage here on the Sage channel, and today I'm presenting you with another rather large ship, with a bunch of course, rotated thrusters for maneuverability, a few jump drives to get it moving, and quite a few floors. Now, if you don't know, Space Engineers recently released out of early access, and with it, it brought a, well, long-longed for feature: ladders. So, when building this ship, I went ahead and made use of those. Not just the ladders though, because they also added a few other little things, such as a smaller assembler for getting started, as well as a little lovely thing called a hydrogen, power generator? Something along those lines, where you can use hydrogen to power your ship. Hence the reason why this ship has mountains and mountains of hydrogen tanks, as well as scattered around in this orangely lit area with oxygen tanks. It also has oxygen generators stuffed in here, in a sort of slapdash, interesting way. And of course a few little extra oxygen things and connectors for the hell of it. Now, before we head inside through this door right here, I should show you the other side of the ship. We'll look at that ship later. It's just a simple combat ship with a lot of really tilty, weird, wonky nonsense that didn't even do its job right when I built it. But yeah, if we look at the other side, you'll actually notice a lot of windows, because as the title of the video probably says, it's a passenger ship, so it's designed to carry just loads of people shoved in there. Unfortunately, I didn't have room to load in my bed mod or something like that and still get enough space, so it ended up the way it is right now. Anyway, let's go ahead and actually head inside proper-like. So I'll pop this door open, and this is from the very bottom of the ship. This is where engineering people would come and go, not so much the general public at all. And ta-da! These are those new hydrogen generators, or however you want to call them. What's the actual name here? It's a generator. Yeah, hydrogen engine. There you go. Doesn't generate hydrogen, it uses it. But I guess it's a power generator that uses hydrogen, hence the reason I kept getting confused with the name. But anyway, ta-da! Welcome to the engineering room, where all the ship's power comes from. There's no reactors in the ship at all. The whole thing's hydrogen powered with just a little splash of ion thrusters thrown in for a good measure. But yeah, there is no nuclear powered anything here, or even solar powered for that matter. And I like this room. It's a weird, nonsensical thing. As you can see, it sort of looks like we're supposed to be able to walk around like this, which was my original idea, but then I decided, well, they just added ladders. Let's make use of those so that you could go ahead and traverse the entire ship with nothing but a ladder. So let's hop on that ladder and get ourselves climbing. We can hold Alt to look up. And as we go up the ladder, you'll notice it takes quite a while. I do hope in the future they'll allow you to hold shift or something to be able to move more quickly up the ladder, as it does seem to take quite a while. But of course, maybe in a weird way that's intentional, because they don't want you using ladders instead of stairs on every single ship. But who knows? We'll find out in the future. Alrighty, and now that we've reached the top, you'll notice I put a ladder blocking our way, but the easiest way to use that is actually press spacebar and then press F really damn quick. Actually jumps you onto that ladder even from the other side, which I think is actually an awesome feature, because it basically allows you to have a safety thing here so you can't fall down it, but also so you can get off at a specific floor. And I'm a little bit stuck now, but that's my own fault for not putting some sort of more safety guard here. But we'll just use our jetpack for half a millisecond. Also, if I do get stuck here, I can always just jump back on the ladder and then jump back off. Silly me. But anyway, this is the engineering control area. I have 2 screens set up for whatever you wish to use them for. I might actually go ahead and, before releasing this to the public, add in some programmable blocks so that we have a little bit more control over what you program up and however you want to set it up, which I've just done. So there you go. Anyway, I love the idea of having these like upside down seats, because I'm sort of messing with gravity. The ship flies, you know, that way as its front direction, but of course you're walking around, well, not like a normal Earth-based ship. And of course you can hop in here and all of a sudden the room looks quite a bit different, being flipped around, which I actually do quite love the way these sort of stick out of the walls. I sort of tried to mimic that later on in the ship, but didn't exactly succeed. Anyhow, let's head up to the next floor, and you'll see this one's a bit quicker. And of course, if you don't know, when Space Engineers released and added these lovely ladders, they also had animations for the top of them. So you do this lovely little boop boop and actually step up there. And then we can go ahead and head into the more passenger-based parts of this ship. So the whole idea of this large, strange, almost donut-shaped room is the idea you'd have desks and tables in here for people to just sort of relax and lounge as the ship is, well, doing its thing, flying across the cosmos. Unfortunately, well, those blocks aren't in the game currently, or at least they're modded, and I didn't want to cook up my own mods or yank somebody else's in here right now. That said, the developers said they're still working on all sorts of new blocks for the game, even though it's left early access, so maybe we'll see things such as that in the future. Anyway, we'll head back into this airlock here, which takes us just back to where we were. I was being a fool. We need to go to the other side of it for the ladder that accesses the rest of the facility. Facility, ship, whatever. Anyway, head up another rather long ladder. You'll notice that in a larger part of the ship, I have another way to get around instead of using the ladders if you do want to use a jetpack. And of course, at any time, you could just fly up to this and click on it to get through that. So we're into sort of the officers area now. This is where the, well, officers for the lower decks at least would work. So you might have an engineer guy or two, and maybe a maintenance guy, and then maybe, I don't know, somebody else to help out around the ship. Maybe even a bridge crew guy would come down here. Each of these rooms is lit by a panel light, well, which is just an LCD screen, whose color I have set to, well, white, and whose text I've set to nothing. And then I set it to show text. So it lights these rooms up pretty well, actually. So at first you won't notice the light, but as soon as you walk into them, it actually does illuminate the room pretty well. And I actually like this sort of gentle feeling it gives. Also, because of the way it works, when you're not in the same room as them, they don't really seem to light the room up at all. So it almost acts like the lights are turning on when you walk into them, and I think that's actually quite nice. Unfortunately, though, one of these rooms is smaller than the others, this little guy, so he gets a cramped little thing right there. And then this room, the, well, highest officer of whoever's sleeping down here, they get two of these things. Again, I'd like to have furniture, desks, beds, and maybe even a small urinals, restroom sort of thing that would open and close up, keep it out of the way, but I don't have those mods, well, easily available to me at this moment. Anyway, if we were to head up, you can now see, and I started flying there, obviously getting ahead of myself, the ladder to the heavens, or however you want to put it. Maybe it's to hell if you can't sail up from down, because it is Space Engineers, and that happens sometimes. Anyway, though, yeah, it's a heck of a thing. And of course, we can use it the same way as we go up to a floor, press spacebar, left click again, and ta-da, we've made it up a floor. And this door, colored red specifically because it's in an airlock area, ta-da-da, you can see has another ceiling lit by these beautiful, beautiful lights. Almost reminds me of something out of Blade Runner. But if we were to actually go over here, this is where the passengers would actually get onto the ship. And I've now vented that little tiny room. But there you go. The idea is this is a docking port on the top of the ship, where it would dock with any station it wants to, and then it could open up all these doors and usher in and out, well, however many people want to get onto this bloody thing. And in theory, if I had made the mods or found them, it would have quite a few beds inside the rest of it. And hopefully this doesn't get depressurized every time. It shouldn't. But you never know. It's probably just me going through the doors too quickly. Anyway, to each side, we have little sort of service rooms. Now, down below in the engineering area, I didn't show it, but there was a proper assembler down there, as well as a small furnace, a basic furnace. I believe they've renamed it instead of the arc furnace. But I decided to have sort of for the passenger use, this basic assembler up here that's not tied into the pipes of the ship, and you can even see it's named passenger assembler. So if somebody wanted to do a little bit of work while they're here, they could. And of course we have a cargo thing that connects to the cargo of the whole ship, so that if people were coming on board and they had luggage to take with them, instead of trying to take it up or down a ladder to their one little bunk, they'd come into here and drop it off. We also, in case people needed medical assistance, this is the floor they would go to, ta-da, for this lovely little medical room, which is pretty much the same exact thing except for a medical device instead of the basic assembler. And again, it's all lit by these lovely green lights, and your character's eyes sort of adjust depending on where you're looking, so if you stare at the lights, the whole world's going to get a little bit darker until you stare down here and your eyes adjust again. It's actually pretty cool what they've done with that. Don't know how long it's been like that, but I love it. Anyway, we'll close that door off, and again, the way the lighting works, it makes it seem like it's actually shut the lights off in there. It's pretty nifty. Then we can head up. Now, one way we could get up is actually to just aim up and jump and reach it. And actually, this one we don't even have to jump. But all the above floors are pretty much the same. If we pop in here, you'll see we have the lovely lighting. Our floors are all catwalk stuff, so I could have thinner floors instead of having to have a whole block between floors, and still have a nice high ceiling in them. And you can see we get these side rooms here. And the idea of these side rooms would be that you'd have basically bunks upon bunks upon bunks, maybe 2 or 3 sets of bunks too high for all the passengers, because it's a bulk passenger ship, where you'd basically be like, hey, if you need to go somewhere, we can load a bunch of you up like sardines and slowly jump you to your next destination. But yeah, that's the basic gist of these floors, and they're all almost the same. If we were going to this next floor up, you'll notice some slight differences. Well, not yet, but as soon as we go in here, you'll notice some slight differences, where the far wall's a little bit farther out, it's a little bit roomier, and this is the idea that you'd either have a private room, or I was really thinking more like a restroom would be set up in here, since it's bulk transport. If anybody needed to use a restroom, ta-da, they all have their restroom. So I was thinking maybe the floor below this, since it doesn't have that restroom spot, it might end up just being more storage or something like that, or maybe that's where people could drag up some excess stuff, who knows, or maybe those tiny little restroom chairs I was talking about previously would be stuck in there. But either way, the ones below this aren't ideal. From this point upwards, they're pretty much all the same, and somehow I've got myself lost in the same two rooms here. Eek. Compound blocks. It's my only complaint about release of Space Engineers. No compound blocks, so I can't like stick signs everywhere like I'd like to. Like I try to place something here and it intersects the floor. Anyway, enough of that kerfuffling. Up we go to this floor, and again, it'll just show that it's pretty much exactly the same. Only difference is the floors might be a little bit different, because again, this is the only thing dividing the lower floor and this floor here from one another. Ooh, and that's not supposed to be there. Uh-oh. Pascatios. I thought the lights didn't place throughout the whole thing. Oh, no, there's another one. Eep, 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 eep. That's bad. Means I'm going to have to go through and probably repair the lights on all this stuff throughout all those. But I'll do that before it releases again. At least the other side worked fine. Anyway, you get the idea. These are all pretty much the same. Door, please. So now if we just go ahead and carry our way all the way up to the top. There we go, another red door. This is another airlock setup, so we can vent ourselves in the space. Of course, very dangerous if you were to open both those doors, since you'd depressurize the whole stairwell up and down that thing. That would be horribly, horribly bad. In fact, I just saw a vent there, so we might have momentarily depressurized that room, since it's a huge swath of the ship that's connected like that. I found no easy way to actually have an airlock door for a vertical shaft like this. And of course, this is the way I was talking about getting up and down faster, is basically flying next to the ladder. Of course, you gotta be careful. If you're in survival, you could bonk your head and easily kill yourself. And of course, dropping like that would guarantee your death pretty swiftly. Anyway, up here, this very, very top spot, we have the bridge proper. So, pop these doors open, walk in, and ta-da! Like I said, I tried to do the same thing, but I didn't have quite as much space on the bridge. It ended up being, well, quite narrow once we got to the top of the ship. I do have a few more screens. These are all named, by the way. If we were to right-click, you can see Bridge Aux Screen 1 and Bridge Aux Screen 2. And then these are the main screens. Same with those engineering screens down below. So if you want to put your own stuff on those screens, you should be able to figure out which ones are which relatively easily. I do also have captain's quarters and first officer quarters stuck around the side, so this lovely room here, a little bit bland. I wanted to go with like this square ceiling because it gave you more, well, headspace instead of the curves and stuff I usually use, but hey, it still works, and of course it's ridiculously bright. And there's a gap there. There's no longer a gap there. There we go, filled in those holes. That was a little bit weird. Anyway, basically the same thing on either side. You don't need to see any more of that, I do not think. And then, of course, these are all just sort of engineering cockpits or crew member cockpits sitting around, as well as the programmable blocks, but I do believe I have this one set up, yep, for the rotor thruster thing. Alright, so let's take the ship for a spin now. This is the pilot cockpit right here. Boop-a-loop. This allows us to get a proper look at the ship. Actually, I will use spectator again, so you can see this is where the bridge is right at the front. And when we go down, you can actually see all those different floors for all the dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of passengers that would be on board this ship. So, for the love of the Lord, avoid combat in this civilian ship, or else you're going to have your own version of the Titanic, damn it. Especially with this whole long shaft being connected up with one air chamber. Very dangerous, that. That would not pass many safety regulations. Anyhow, we've seen most of the thrusters back here in passing. I should point out the lighting that we have on the exterior of the ship. As per usual, I failed to actually color the ship in, but I did use some lights to go ahead and, well, give it some depth in areas and some color, which I actually am quite happy with. I didn't want to fiddle around trying to color in specific blocks after I'd already built the bloody ship. And then we all, of course, have all this negative space between a few things, and the idea is that this ship is armed, but very, very lightly in these large missile pods down here, but it means it can only shoot ahead of itself. Really, I wanted to put some sort of like modded thing in there, or maybe a missile launcher that could shoot seeking missiles that, you know, you could program to target a target, but I decided against it, so it just sort of has these big gun things that sit down there. Feel free to, of course, do anything to this ship, but strip those out, I would highly suggest, and put something more useful in there. Anyhow, let's go ahead and see our little cockpit view. There it is. There's our person sitting there, and let's go ahead and take the ship for a spin, shall we? Suddenly there's two of the ship. Why? Well, clearly something inside the ship got disconnected and was acting as its own separate static grid, preventing us from moving, I think. But now, you can see we can move. Now, it is a civilian ship, and it is ridiculously slow, as many of the ships I build are, but you can see it does maneuver, and let's go ahead and just say we're clear of that thing in front of us. Boy, I love the way that docking color sort of looks like a bridge. But anyway, let's give it full thrust forward, and away we shall go. Hold on, hold on. Boop. Why aren't we moving? How have I copied this ship in a way where there's still something free floating inside, somehow preventing us from moving? Because I'm assuming that's what's happened. Wait. I copied the ship and then got in the wrong one. Yeah, let's just hit it. And ta-da, you can see we can indeed move. I don't know how we were maneuvering up and down a little bit in the other one, but ta-da, the ship can maneuver, and of course it, well, I think, looks pretty awesome from the back with all those thrusters coming out. And it's a very segmented ship. It's a bridge at the very, very front, but really it's all living space from the very front sort of to the middle, and then from the middle backwards, it's all thrust. So you'd probably end up using this ship a bit similar to something from, I don't know, The Expanse, the real world, where you'd get it up to speed, and then you'd coast, and then once you got to your destination, you'd do a very, very slow 180, because it does have a bunch of gyroscopes in the front of the ship, but it is a very large ship. Flip yourself around, and then fire up your thrusters to go ahead and stop yourself. Which is a little bit hard to tell which direction you're going exactly, but we can sort of guesstimate it, and then turn on the thrusters and see just how well it brakes. Actually, that little thing in the bottom right is doing its job somewhat well. Once we get that to the middle, we should know we're facing exactly the opposite direction of our movement. There we go. And so now we'll kick those on, and badoom, you can see our speed starts dropping down. And of course, as I've said before, the ship does have a number of jump drives stuck onto it to also allow you to, well, maneuver it a little bit better. Anyway, guys and gals, that's the bulk passenger craft. I think that's what I've settled on, right? Bulk passenger craft? Yes, that seems like the name. Anyhow, I hope you like it. It's a silly, derpy, random thing. Uses ladders and the new generators, and, well, that's about it. So, to finish off the video, as per usual, we're going to grab something and shoot at it. So, I built this ship here. I actually did all this stuff, or at least a lot of it, on a stream on Friday. As I've said before, I'm trying to stream every Friday. Oof. And, yeah, we built this random mad ship, and we'll go ahead and take it and start bombarding the passenger craft. And actually, we should probably go after the one that we actually flew off. That way, we have a slightly more interesting target. Jesus, I thought it was an asteroid. I'll just teleport it over here with the control spacebar. There we go. Oh, fuck. It only teleported the front of the ship. Now I've broken it. Dag nabbit. I literally just teleported the head off of it. Alrighty, so one quick load later, we can actually go ahead and start bombarding it, and I copied it again to make sure we still had a flying version of it that won't be affected by stationary stations. So yeah, now we can go ahead and start bombarding the thing, and see how it fares with just some light missile attacks, shall we? And of course, I've already done this in the past with warheads, and that really didn't go too well. You can see a fair few sparks coming off of the poor thing. Ooh, and of course, you can see I missed horribly from our weird attack ship. Let's do an F9 and just aim this thing about a little bit here. That did not work. But from the tiny little attacks we've done, let's see what compromises may have been made. Flying through the decks, by the way, you can see the gyroscopes. Actually, does look like most everything is secure in these lovely, lovely cargo passages. So we haven't lost any passengers yet, which would of course be the main problem with a ship like this being attacked. So frack it, let's just attack the damn thing already. So there you go, that's a bit more damage, eh? Let's see. Luckily, it does look like some of the passengers would have been still alive in that little room and this little room. Hell, this floor looks pretty good. Never mind. But, you know, the bridge has been compromised, so if you didn't have a spacesuit on, you'd be dead. And it looks like the great majority of passengers, actually this... Nope, not airtight. The vast majority of passengers, with the exception of... Wow, that room's actually still alright. This room... and this room would probably be dead. Oh, no, this one's good as well, and this one. So there's a few people who have survived. Yeah, a few people would have survived. Have to wait for rescue teams. And it looks like the medical bay would still be intact. Yep, so if you could actually somehow get down there to medical, you'd be absolutely fine. Unless this whole room's been depressurized as well. In which case, I don't know how you get anywhere. Not to mention a lot. Oh, no, it has been depressurized. Yep, so you're fracked. Stay in your room. Maybe you'll live a while until rescue team comes. But otherwise, you're probably dead. Anyway, guys and gals, that's this ship. It's clearly not built for combat in the slightest. It's just another one of my big, bulky civilian ships. But hey, I think it looks alright, and I think it's just an interesting square thing. With a lot of, what do you call those things? Ladders. Anyway, guys, that will be that. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Ta-ta. There. The true dangers of warheads. Ridiculously powerful. Ridiculously powerful. Like, cut the ship in two in a few seconds powerful.